Turkey is currently in crisis, and while I typically do on-the-ground reporting, I believe that I genuinely would be in danger if I did this reporting in Turkey. So currently I am in Craiova, Romania. I will be going to Sofia, Bulgaria here soon. I'm recording this probably a week before you'll see it. However, Turkey is going through crisis, and I feel it's extremely important to go over the geopolitical analysis of Turkey and why this is extremely detrimental to future ideals in Turkish investment. So obviously with this happening, there has been media blackouts, internet blackouts, and a crackdown on freedom of speech. People have been getting shot in Izmir, and additionally there have been protests in Istanbul, Antalya, Ankara, and several other large Turkish cities. Now, I do believe that this will get better, and I do hold hope for the Turkish people. However, I feel it would be distasteful for me to talk too much about the implications before it has shored up. However, I do believe it is important to get as much of the details out there as possible. While Turkey is in crisis, I am extremely thankful that I am currently in Romania and I can see what is going to happen in Turkey. I will still go to Turkey. I will still spend time in Istanbul, in Ankara, in Rize. So of course I will be in Turkey very soon. However, I would not recommend right now going to Turkey unless you have experience in states where there are protests. As this continues to go on, and as Turkey cracks down more on opposition figures, eventually it will sadly turn to foreigners, as it has in every single scenario with Turkey. And while I think that it will resolve itself fairly quickly, as it typically does, I believe that me stating my political views would not be beneficial. And I truly hope that civilians and people of interests that are not related to this whole kerfuffle are indeed protected. I hope that international law is followed, and I hope that Turkey remains dignified as a country. This is unprecedented in a lot of ways, and I believe that Turkey should continue to be democratic. It should continue to uphold the rule of law as it has. However, I believe this has been a subversion attempt. While I think that realistically it does make me perhaps at a slight risk to report what is going on in Turkey, I believe it is important for me to do so. And I feel like the honesty is something that I built this channel on, and it is what I will report on regardless of how I feel about a situation. And of course, I will be speaking with my friends in Istanbul, in Ankara, in Kırıkkale, going over exactly what's happening, how it's impacting them, and what you can do, what you can take away from the Turkish protests and the sliding rule of law in Turkey, especially from an investment standpoint. As Turkey becomes more and more embroiled in scandals, and as F-35 shipments have been sanctioned by the United States, I believe it is inherently going in the incorrect direction. And I don't make money from any of the citizenship by exception programs I represent. I don't make money from citizenship by investment programs. And so I can tell you, without a reasonable doubt in my mind, you should not be looking at Turkey's citizenship by investment right now. You should not be looking at buying property in Turkey. Not because there is this protests. There have always been protests in Turkey. They haven't gotten press, they haven't been large, but there have always been them. But because this shows that Turkey does not want investor money, it wants to subvert the money that you give them on military, on police, on corruption. And this isn't just me saying this. If you look at the statistics from all of the potential places you could look at, Turkey is extremely low in corruption rankings. It is amongst the bottom, which means it is extremely high in corruption. Oligarchic capture is extremely high. Inequality is extremely high. And this is not good from an economic perspective. Turkey is not like Uzbekistan. Turkey is not like China. Turkey is not like Thailand. Instead, Turkey is an extractive state. What this means is that their corruption and the rule of law directly subverts foreign funds. I wanted to actually look at properties for citizenship by investment in Turkey. However, I believe that now, as the situation has gotten worse, as the lira has deteriorated further, I cannot say in good faith that Turkey is a place that you should move in the immediate future. I cannot say that Turkey is a good investment. And I say all of this not because I dislike Turkey. It's not because I am pro-Armenia or pro-whatever. I believe that each state has its place in the world. I believe that Turkey has done amazing things in the past. I believe that people in the conflict on both sides are corrupt. I believe that there is no winners here. Everyone loses. And this has reached a boiling point. And for me to recommend someone to move to a state that is more violent would be extremely, brutally wrong. And of course, Istanbul is a beautiful city. I would love for me to be able to say, yes, go to Istanbul. Yes, go to Ankara. Yes, go to Rize. Yes, go to Antalya. But I can't, in good faith, say that Ankara or Istanbul or Kirikale or any of the places remotely close to a city in Turkey are safe. Not because they're dangerous from a criminal perspective, but because Turkey has chosen the path of resistance. Now, take what you will from that statement. However, I feel it is important for me to address that. If you're looking for consulting on all of these things, all of these topics, and you are looking to prevent your family, your loved ones from getting into these situations, I would recommend booking a call down below in the description, one-on-one, 15 minutes, absolutely free. If you liked this video, feel free to like it. If you really liked this video, feel free to share. If you are looking to join me on this journey, feel free to subscribe. I apologize for just how monotone this video is. However, I felt it was important to get this information out. And additionally, I have no words really. So I apologize again for the monotone nature of this video. It's rough for me because I have a lot of friends in Turkey. However, this has been the Traveling Report, signing off.